You're standing in your kitchen at 2 a.m., lit only by the cold blue glow of your phone screen, staring at a text that was left on read 6 hours ago. You feel a familiar surge of cortisol, a slow erosion of your peace, as you replay every word of your last conversation, convinced you've somehow managed to cross a line you didn't even know existed. You think you're just passionate, or that you care more than most, but what you're actually experiencing is a biological alarm system that has mistaken a silent notification for a life-threatening emergency. Welcome to the human mechanics of anxious attachment. Most people think love is a Hollywood fantasy, but for the anxious attacher, it's often a cycle of anticipation and letdown that feels more like a chemical addiction than a genuine connection. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on why you can't stop chasing the noise, explaining how your brain's shadowy algorithm is rigging your love life against you. Let's explain. To understand why your heart feels like it's in a permanent state of emergency, we have to look at the gatekeeper of your emotions, the amygdala. In an anxious attachment style, this part of the brain misfires, triggering a full survival response even when there's no actual danger. It's like generalized anxiety disorder, where your mind treats everyday situations like a partner being vague or distant, as if you're being hunted by a predator. Your shoulders ache, your heart races, and you feel exhausted because your nervous system thinks it's protecting you from threats that don't exist. This isn't a bad mood you can just shake off. It's your brain physically struggling to find the relief of connection, making you feel like you're piloting your life through a thick fog. This blueprint was likely programmed during your earliest bonds, where the supply of needs was inconsistent, teaching your brain that peace only exists in the brief moments between cravings. The onset of a new relationship for an anxious attacher feels like a powerful, fast-acting stimulant. You experience a rush of dopamine and serotonin, the messengers of pleasure and happiness, that makes the world feel clearer, easier, and more controllable. This is often triggered by love bombing, a manipulation technique where someone showers you with intensity, not affection. They tell you you're perfect and talk about forever on the second date, and for a moment you feel infinite, like you've finally found the key to connection. You feel untouchable, and every move feels perfect because you're running on maximum empathy. It's a distortion of normal reality that feels both dreamy and focused, and you become obsessed with chasing a goal that suddenly feels like destiny. At this peak, you're the white knight, showing up with answers and solutions just to make yourself relevant and stay connected to that high. But then the fun tilts into exhaustion and the come-down slams in. Your partner pulls back, or maybe they just need a little space. But to your brain, that silence is a punishment. This is where the trap closes. Because your reward system is already burning through its fuel, you start second-guessing everything. Your memory, your emotions, and your gut. You start breadcrumbing yourself, living on the tiny hey texts they send every few days, which act like emotional clickbait to keep you hooked. You're caught in a loop of anticipation and letdown, checking your phone at 2 a.m. because maybe this time they'll actually follow through. Your brain learns that peace only exists between cravings, and you're no longer connecting for fun. You're just trying to feel normal again. The human mechanics of this chase are often fueled by triangulation and gaslighting. If your partner is vague or brings in a third person to make your voice feel smaller, your identity shifts, and you begin to mirror whatever they want you to be. You might even encounter the Darvo method, where you bring up your hurt only for them to deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender, leaving you apologizing for something you didn't even do. This is withdrawal disguised as culture, where we convince ourselves that the intensity and the storm of the relationship are signs of true love, rather than a medical disorder turned into a cultural nightmare. You start to believe that your value is a debt you're always trying to repay, and your kindness becomes currency in a game you're losing.
The reality check is that consistency speaks louder than charm, but the anxious attacher is often allergic to the patient and boring nature of a healthy connection. You might feel like you're trading your time directly for money, or in this case, emotional validation, without realizing that Your time is the most valuable asset in the world. When you chase someone who stalls you or leaves you guessing, you are watching inflation quietly steal your future, eroding your self-worth until it feels like monopoly money. You're like a headless chicken running around with pure instinct driving you on, unaware that the connection you're fighting for is chemical, not real. You think you're building wealth in the relationship, but you're actually just charging rent to exist in someone else's hands, and that interest is turning into a financial fire for your soul. So, what is the fix? It begins by pulling the triangle apart and stopping the noise. You have to stop explaining yourself to someone who's pretending not to understand. Realize that your value isn't a social construct based on someone else's belief and trust. It is inherent. You need to move from the fetal position of emotional protection, which restricts your diaphragm and makes your breathing shallow, to the soldier position of self-worth. This means lying flat on your back, keeping your spine completely neutral, and refusing to twist or bend into weird angles just to keep someone else relevant. It's about being early, diversified, and patient with your own healing, letting your compound growth of self-respect take decades to do its thing. To rig the game back, you must recognize that accountability isn't an attack and that truth isn't cruelty. Stop chasing the trail of crumbs and start investing in your own human mechanics. You have to reset your brain's dependency pathways, much like how certain treatments pull back the curtain on what's already in your mind. Your hours are too valuable to be spent in a manic episode of insecurity. You want a connection that feels like a functional calm, where muscles loosen, thoughts quiet, and the world stops feeling so sharp. Remember, recessions aren't forever, they're resets, and this crash in your love life is just an opportunity to rebuild growth without the scars of the past. If this breakdown helped you see the invisible gears of your own shadowy algorithm, then you're already sparkling with adult credibility. We're building a community here for people who want to understand the rules of the game so they can rig it back. If you have a modern ritual or a psychological trap you want me to explain, whether it's the truth about taxes or why we swallow spiders in our sleep, leave it in the comments below. I read every single one of your ideas to see what we should pull the curtain back on next. Hit the subscribe button to make sure you're here for the next reset.